Hey everybody, we're James and Anna, and we're going to be doing today a Q&A. We had our adoption agency, Nightlight Christian Adoptions, send us some questions and answers that people ask them the most. We also have a few other people ask us a couple things, not very many, but we have a couple. So we're going to do our best to answer those for you today. If you're new to this video, you haven't seen us before, James and I have went through the embryo adoption program. It's titled Snowflakes through Nightlight Christian Adoptions. It's a division of it, and we've adopted 7 precious little embryos that we are going to be transferring in just under 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So we're almost there. We're super excited. I'll try not to say excited anymore because I know I say it a lot, but there's just really no better way to explain this entire process. You know, you go through everything and then you finally get here, and it's so close, and we know, like we've said before in other videos, just because we're going through all of this doesn't mean it's going to work and that we're going to get pregnant, but just having a chance to try just means the world to us. So we know we're extremely blessed.
Yeah, I'm betting that it happens.
Yeah, you got to go into it positively. So let's jump into the questions because I'm sure we're going to expand on them a little bit. So let's get ready to go. The first question is, how will you tell your children that they were adopted as embryos, specifically for us?
So, this is a question that is in some ways very difficult to answer, in some ways very easy to answer. The short of it is that we don't ever want our children to remember being pulled. We don't want it to be a traumatic experience. We don't want them to think like
Santa Claus.
Right, like, oh, I just found out that these aren't, my actual parents or my birth parents. So we do want to let them know from the very beginning, from before they can even speak, probably before they're even born, that that they have been, created through another family, through the placing family. And so we know that we want to tell them that from the get-go. How much will we tell them at what point? We're not exactly sure. There's a lot of great resources out there. There's a lot of great things that you can do. It's very important that you tell your children, and the earlier the better. But what details you want to get in at one certain time, we're not sure. But we know we want to tell them, and we know that we're going to tell them hopefully before they even remember.
Yeah, and it's also, everyone's very different, so someone's opinion might be completely different than ours. I have friends and everything that have different opinions on it. But for us, we don't want our kids to ever have that aha moment. To us, we want them to be able to have trust in us as their parents from the very beginning. And we've also researched some of embryo adoption children and also normal adoption children, the ones between when they found out early or they always knew versus they found out later in life that they came from a genetic family, that their parents that they lived with, the parents that adopted them, weren't their genetic parents, and they said they always struggled with that. So for us, yeah, we're definitely going to just have it be something that they know. I mean, I already have some books that we bought, kids books, and there's a bunch of other ones out there that's being written about embryo adoption. It's kind of new, but it's starting to kind of come up in the works. And I definitely plan on using that at a young age to always talk about it, the genetic parents. We're hoping to have a really great relationship with them. That's a question later, but yeah, they're definitely going to always know. I think everything you said was basically it. But
from the very beginning,
yeah,
it was something that was difficult for us. We weren't sure that we wanted to do that, but after researching it and speaking to people who've done both, we think that that's the best option, at least for us.
Yeah, for sure. For our family, that's the best option. So hopefully that answers your question. Question number 2, are all the embryos you received biologically related or come from one family? So I'll start this one. The embryos that we received are all related. They're from one family, which we call the placing family. They live in a different state than us. We're in Michigan. The family that we adopted from did use an egg donor. We do also, I don't think we've ever mentioned it before, but
No,
in the adoption process, when we're going through it, Nightlight's very good about corresponding with you back and forth between, are you okay if we show your profile to a family that has this? This isn't necessarily something that you mentioned you're okay with, or this. They always tell you before anything happens, which is great. And this specific family they had mentioned had a big number of embryos, and they had split them up. So they had 14 embryos to adopt out, so they split them into 2 batches of 7, because 14 obviously is way too many for one family. And so there's a first adopting family. In our specific case, James and I talked about it, we prayed about it, and we said that if this is what God wants, it'll happen. If it isn't, then it won't. And this is the family that we ended up adopting from. So there is a first adopting family in this group. We're the second adopting family to get the second set of embryos. So there's 3 couples, James and I, the placing family who we got the embryos from, and the first adopting family. We all live in different states and we all have the same genetically related embryos or children.
We don't really even know them or anything about them. So
yeah, we know of them, and we hope to know them in the future. Right now we're kind of focusing more on us and our relationship with the placing family. So yes, they are all biologically related to each other, which is pretty amazing. There's a lot of fear when you go into this not knowing anything, but I promise you, if you literally just let the Holy Spirit guide your heart, He'll take you to the exact family you need. You know, if we were to pick the lives we want for ourselves, we would most 10 out of 10 be unsatisfied because we'd be too scared to do anything that's not deemed normal. So I'm so grateful that we opened our hearts to what the Lord wants, because honestly, our placing family is incredible. We talk with them. That's another question though. So let's continue on. It's the next question. Do you know who the donor family is, and did they choose you to adopt their embryos? So let's start with the first one. Do we know who the donor family is?
So we do know who they are. And we may have mentioned this before, but kind of how it works is they get our profile, and then if they're okay with us, then they see our profile. So we have seen their profile, and we have corresponded a little bit through Nightlight, and since then Nightlight we both agreed to receive each other's emails, and we've emailed back and forth photos and just kind of updates and stuff, and we're really happy with our placing family, and we're excited to get to know them more. So far it's pretty open, but I'm just imagine that it'll become more open as time goes on.
All my walls fell around my heart the minute that they messaged us back, and the one line that all it took was, "We're praying for you and your journey, and we're praying for you and for your children." Having the family that you adopt the embryos from give you such a beautiful gift, tell you that they're praying for you, and just having that spiritual connection with them as well and with the Lord. I mean, I always tear up. I'm tearing up right now. I can't tell you how amazing of a feeling that is. How, you know, it feels like home. It's like when you finally get home after a long trip, you're just like, I'm home. It just felt right.
Yeah.
It just felt right from the very beginning, and after we got that email, it was just, that was it. Like, we knew 100%. So we had a good peace about that. And did they choose us to adopt their embryos? So James kind of touched on it already. Yes, they did. They asked us first and told us about the situation with being a first adopting family. We'd be the second adopting family. So we thought about that for a while, and we decided, yes, if God wants that, we'll go ahead with it. And then we said yes, and so Nightlight went ahead and showed them our family profile. Now, if they would have said no, we would have never known. They just move on to the next family that they have set up for you. But luckily they said yes, and that means that Nightlight then sent us their profile, and we had the opportunity to say yes or no. So they did choose us first, and we wanted to quickly choose them right back, but we took time to think and pray about it. But the minute we opened that email with their family profile, and we heard that, there was a match, that we've been matched with someone, that was just a great day. It was just so exciting, nerve-wracking and exciting, but the minute we opened the email, like I said, it was just like,
we know that God's gonna provide and send us the right family, but obviously we're anxious about it, and
we were anxious about it.
And from my perspective, I mean, I wasn't necessarily I was definitely relieved and happy with it, and as soon as I just saw like the first few words, like I knew it was right. But from my perspective, I'm a little bit more like, okay, like we still need to just kind of look at this a little bit better, as just I guess maybe the man's perspective, like we want to make sure that everything is safe.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between men and women. Women decide with their heart really quickly, like they know in the first 20 seconds. Men need to think through everything, and then they'll follow through with their feelings. So, and they did pick us first. 5, how many embryos are we going to be transferring?
So as we mentioned that we have 7 embryos, and 6 of the 7 are frozen in straws, 2 each. So
Correct.
there's
3.
4 straws total, and 3 of those are doubles. Depending on how they look, our goal is to hopefully transfer 1 really good embryo. If for whatever reason 1 or 2 don't look as good, we're open to potentially transferring 2, but we really hope that we just have 1 really good embryo and we transfer that.
Yep, and we've been going through obviously the medical process of getting my body ready for an embryo transfer. And we just yesterday had our checkup, our 2-week checkup and we're looking really good. So they don't see a need to really put in more than 1 at a time. Plus, like James said, they're already day 5s. They're really beautiful, great embryos according to our doctor and embryologist. So the chances are good. It's just a matter, it's up to God. Question 6. You mentioned you went through a home study. What was that like? So we went through a home study through Snowflakes program. We went through the embryo adoption home study. So it is different than like if you were adopting a child that's already in waiting. So it was nerve-wracking in the beginning. Of course, not the process, just we were nervous because anytime you think home study, you think like this is gonna make or break my chance to have a child, and it's very scary. But the embryo adoption home study that we had wasn't anything like I thought it would be. I was all very anxious. I mean, I'm grateful because we got a pretty darn clean house. Getting it all ready, everything like nooks, crannies, windows. I mean, we did it all, but it wasn't anything like that. They basically just want to see your home and check it out, see you as a couple. They did like a couples assessment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's really no surprises. They give you a couple list of things they want to see,
right.
Things that they want you to have in place prior. They don't expect your home to be baby proof, but they do want somewhere for your child to be able to play. They want to make sure you're not sticking them under the steps. They want to make sure that there's an adequate room.
Yes. A nursery, like where are you gonna put a baby in a nursery, and where's the toys gonna be for a playroom, and where's your room at? How far away is it? You know.
Right, and then there's also a list of like potential safety concerns as far as fire extinguishers and smoke detectors,
yes.
Carbon monoxide detectors. Pretty much all of those things we already had in place. I put a couple more.
Yep.
Just for good measure, but
yeah, for safety. We had like a carbon monoxide detector to the nursery.
Yeah, we just put them in every room just to be sure. But that's
to make sure we're covered.
That's probably overkill. But,
yeah.
They want to make sure your child has somewhere outside to play, or if you live in the city, obviously that's not an option. But they just want to meet you, look through your home, and make sure that there's no questions, and also to give peace of mind for the placing family that this is a good, safe place to raise a child.
Yeah, it's a lot, like we said in one of our other videos, if you go back and watch them, a lot of this, when you're the one going through it, you think about your personal journey and how it's going, but it's such a good, humble experience to put yourself in the placing family's shoes. So if we were the ones gifting our embryos to another couple, what would make us feel more comfortable doing that? And a big thing would be knowing that they visited their home, that they had extensive background checks, that that they're a wholesome couple. We both went through a couples assessment test. You'll do that through the Nightlight process as well. And she went over all the results with us after she came here. So she stayed for probably about 3 hours. I would say 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. And we showed her our house and the rooms and where everything was at. We talked about us. She interviewed James individually, me individually, and talked to us together about our strengths and weaknesses. So it was really good too, eye-opening, because I think we learned a lot about each other, and I think it made us a little bit more grateful too. Yeah. So there's no
surprises. I mean, there's nothing to be too worked up about. Just they basically it's like a test where they give you all the answers. You just got to make sure you have those, and
Sure.
Okay. We were happy with the we were happy with the home study.
Yeah, yep, it was really good. So it's not scary at all. If you're trying to get ready to go through this and you see the fact that you have a home study, don't be nervous. They obviously just want to make sure your house is picked up and clean, and that, you know, the roof's not leaking on your head too bad and things like that. But they're, you know, it's not as crazy as you think. So just, you know, stay calm and work through it and read what they say to do, and you'll get through just fine. It was no big deal. It was actually really good. I'm glad we had one. I think it was really good for us. Plus all the education hours that we had to do beforehand. It was excellent for us to read and learn. Of course, a lot of it we already knew because we researched like crazy, but a lot of it was just kind of like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or oh, that's a good analogy to remember for the future. So all in all, it was great, I think.
Yeah, there's so many things we can talk about as far as educational stuff in home study.
Yeah.
And maybe we should make a separate video about that, but that's kind of the basis of it.
Yeah. Next question. Since your embryos are in Chicago, but you're in Michigan, how are you preparing for the transfer? So really quick, if that sounds strange to you, go back and watch our first video because we explain having 2 clinics. So we live in Michigan and our embryos right now are in Illinois. Because we have a monitoring clinic here in Michigan doing all the work, and a transferring clinic is in Chicago because of Nightlight likes to have a preferred clinic, and we didn't really care for anyone's in our area, so we're going to go down and do it at the FCI, Fertility Centers of Illinois. So if you're new to us and you just popped on this video, go watch that one real quick. It explains more about our story, and then you can come back to this time frame right here and continue on. But regardless, how are we preparing for it now that we have 2 clinics involved?
And I would say that probably for most people, you're not going to have 2 clinics involved. So right. If you don't, I guess don't worry about it. But for us, we have our clinic in Chicago. They're preparing, they're calling the shots, they're requesting the test. They're the one who's technically doing everything legally. They're just using the clinic here in Michigan to run the tests, to run the labs, the ultrasounds, so we wouldn't have to drive to Chicago every week.
Yeah, I mean that'd be very fun and tasty, but it'd be a little bit crazy. As far as like the preparing part, it's just like any other transfer that you've had, probably. I mean, this is our first round of a frozen embryo transfer, our first time trying it out. So we still have a lot to learn, but just from our perspective and what we've known so far, it's basically the same thing. The only difference that I've really noticed is trying to help. I'm kind of been a middleman trying to help make sure the script got where it needs to go and make sure it goes back where they need to be. And not everything's done at one place, so it can be a little inconvenient, but it has definitely not been impossible. It's been working out great. Just getting it set up was a little bit kind of, I think, a little nerve-wracking for me because I'm also new to this, so I don't know when I'm supposed to receive emails or when I'm supposed to take medicine. But after we got our calendar from our clinic and everything that said when we need to do stuff, I felt a lot better having like a schedule to follow. But as far as that goes, we're on the same kinds of medications. We get tested and checked the same amount of times. We just do it all here in Michigan, and they send everything to Illinois. And then our Illinois doctor is the one who calls us and tells us the information in the news. Other than that, that's just kind of our story. And like James said, most people won't probably have to go through 2 clinics. But if you are, it's definitely doable. Just have to make sure that places and people are going and sending things exactly where they need to be. That's the biggest thing. And last question, did you decide to maintain contact with the donating family? And if so, what will that look like?
So going through the process, they teach you a lot about openness and closeness, and going into it, we weren't sure. The more research we've done, we've decided that at least as of now, we want to be fairly open and fairly close with them. So like we mentioned earlier, we have been contacting them through email, and our plan is to, I mean, we'll see what happens, but our plan is to continue to be open and communicate with them on a regular basis. What does the future hold as far as long term? We're not sure, but we're happy for where we are and where we're planning on being.
It's a growing relationship. So we're starting out, I mean, obviously it's open, but that doesn't mean right away you call each other and, you know, meet up for lunch. We're obviously in different states, so that's not possible at this current time. We both have lives we're leading, and we're still our own people. Now, in the future, like, that would be awesome. James and I are definitely open to meeting, and I believe our adopting family is as well. But we did decide to maintain contact with them. Any children that we are blessed to have born to us are gonna have fully genetic related siblings. And I really want to be able to have answers for them. And I want them to be able to know 100% where they came from. I don't want them ever to feel like a piece of them was missing. In the research we did, that was the #1 answer for children who were adopted, who didn't know who the genetic parents were, or one of them were not. They just always felt like a piece was missing of them when they were older. And I want to be able to have as much answers as possible, or at least a way to get those answers. They're open to questions from us, and so we're really excited to have them behind us through knowing each other fully and having your kids hopefully get to know each other in the future and meeting up and stuff. So in the future, we just don't know, but I can definitely foresee a meetup. I'm so excited about that. That would be amazing to have. Getting to meet them in person would be just incredible. But as of right now, we're just growing our relationship through email. Probably phone calls here in a little bit. And I know a lot might change if we do get pregnant and have a child that's fully related to them. So that might also make things a little bit more personal. But right now we're just enjoying the communication and taking it slow and seeing where God leads it.
Yeah. We're sure as our children grow up, they're going to have many questions, and we hope that we can do our very best to help answer them about how they came to be and about their placing family. And we hope to have that relationship with them that they can ask them and they can communicate with them and their genetic siblings about anything they may have.
So it looks like that's about it. Thanks for watching our frequently asked questions about embryo adoption. And don't forget, if you have any more questions, then there's just some more things that you're interested in about James and I as a couple, about our embryo adoption process, about embryo adoption in general, or our placing family. Know that we're going to keep a lot of their information private. That's just between us two at this time as we get to growing our relationship more. But feel free to go ahead and ask.
I know for us, well, at least me going through this process, that I had many questions, and YouTube was a platform where I was able to ask my questions and get good answers. I know for a lot of people it can be hard, or maybe they're embarrassed to ask questions. I know a lot of our close friends and family, they already know, so obviously they don't have questions. But if you do have questions and you don't want to write them in the comment section, you can send us to our email, which is in the description. Also, there's a ton of info on the Nightlight website, as well as their YouTube page. If you're going through this, you're gonna be requested to watch a lot of their videos. I would just, when you have the time, I would just recommend watching all of them, because questions you have that you may not ask or find other places, you're gonna find in those videos. So if you have time, just watch them all. Sometimes it can seem cumbersome, but you're gonna find answers to questions that you weren't even sure you really had.
Yeah, and even write them down as they pop into your head. And one of the biggest things you can do is call Nightlight. Literally, that's what we did a year and a half before we even signed the papers that we were starting our adoption process. So I talked to them for about an hour. So sorry for you girls who talked to me, but it was the most helpful thing ever. They knew every single answer just like that.
Don't allow yourself to continue to go through this process if there's a lot of questions that you don't know. I know I had questions that I just went along with when there's plenty of information out there. I just didn't look it up.
Yeah, so don't be scared or nervous to kind of figure it out. But all in all, it is a fantastic program. It is great. It's worked out great for us. I know every person's very different, but we're so thrilled and excited about it. Again, like we said, there's a few different places that you can adopt embryos from, but out of all of them, Nightlight's just been phenomenal. The Snowflakes program has been amazing. They're just like family to us now, and we're just so excited to be able to make these videos, to tell everybody else about them and to hopefully ease some fears and get you guys ready and on your way to your little family. So that's basically it for our Q&A. Again, let us know if you have any questions or comments in the section below if you haven't already subscribed. And we will see you next time as we get closer to our transfer date. All right, bye guys.
Bye.